Thanks for clicking. If you're new here, I'm Jay from EZ Wing Chun. We the YouTube all about martial art and Wing Chun in specific. So if that's your interest, consider to subscribe and follow our channel for more tips and instruction about martial art and self-defense. Today I'm gonna give you a few combos which is very handy in the street applications. Let's not wait any further. Let's go. Firstly, I want to mention the techniques today follow with the combo is Phục Sầu and Cam Sầu. If you don't know what it is, I suggest you to watch my tutorial about those two techniques because they are very good techniques for street applications. So now let's dive in some combos. I also have to introduce you a yin and yang concept. So what is yin and yang? It's very simple. Basically, a yang technique is something force against force. Let's say when the guy hook you or round attack you, and then you use a fork to actually stop the motions. That's called a yang attack, force against force. In my opinion, I don't like the idea of blocking the techniques. Rather than that, I believe in the idea of attack all the time. So basically, your fork, you attack the guy's hand. On the other hand, you have the yin techniques, which is you try to blend the force with the guy to redirect his force. So you don't interrupt his motion. You let him do whatever he needs to do. That's basically a yin technique. So a yang technique is good for attacking and dominate the center line. The yin technique good for work around the guy, usually for better control, or if you don't want to actually smash the guy's head, then you can control, throw him, arm lock him, those kind of things. The reason why you need those two is because it's very handy on the street. Because in the street, you don't know who your opponent is. You don't know how strong it is, how big it is, how much his weight. You don't know none of that. So especially when the street conflicts escalate, you see, okay, this guy is pretty big. I don't want to fight force against force. I want to go around him. That when you use the yin technique and vice versa. First situation is when you try to apply the yang Phục Sầu to stop the hook. Well, if you're able to stop it and then the hook is not relatively strong, he will fly back and that gives you room to fit in the punches. A better way, more effective way in my opinion is from the forehand, you actually attack him with the forehand. It's much faster compared to you actually draw it back to your center line and try to do a chain punch. Obviously it's less force, but it's close the gap. So now the guy got attacked all the time. He doesn't have time to reply. He doesn't have time to actually recovery. The next situation gonna be a little bit headache is when he tried to hook you, but the hook is so strong that you cannot push it backward. It's very common. I don't care if you train martial art or if you don't. Anyone can get a very good powers from the hook. So when that happens, his hand will stick to your hand. So now if you do the same thing, you will get hit for sure. In these cases, you actually have to use Jisao to move his hand accordingly. But because the hook is very strong on the horizontal line, it's very weak vertically. So that means you can move his hand up and down quite easily. So now let's go over the down first. When you move his hand down, you can always toss his hand to the other hand, just like tossing the ball between your hand. So when you toss to this hand, you want to step with the back leg and go behind him, like around him. This is the Bagua technique. I'm not certified to actually teach any Bagua technique. Rather than that, I just enjoy the techniques, love the art, and so I cross training and study some of that. So I want to apply into my Wing Chun. That's about it. So when you take your back leg and then you go behind him, remember to drag him, pull him as you go. Just like you tie a rope to the wall and then you try to climb up the wall, you just pull the rope. The feeling is like that. So when you go behind him, drag him. So now you end up behind him. The next follow-up doesn't matter as much because you have so many room to play with. You can take the knee, you can take the groin, you can grab, you can, lock him like arm lock, attack his rib. And those attacking will actually open his head for you to hit if in case he's much taller than you. Now that's too complicated. I don't want that. I want something much more simple. Now just go with the opposite direction. So when the hand stick to you, you just lift the force up, redirect it over here. Remember to make a circle over your head, and then your head, you duck it down below it. So when you duck your own hand, this is very important. You don't want to duck his hand, you want to duck your own hand. That guarantee you will never miss. This is similar to boxing. I take it from boxing to enhance my Wing Chun game. If you already train boxing for years, your footwork is amazing, you can do all of that, your reflex is amazing, then don't bother these techniques anyway. But for beginner, when the guy's hook, usually when you dodge his hand, you will tend to miss. All the time when I test this with my student, actually a new white sheet of paper, sometimes I just hook him randomly and see his reaction for research purposes. I want to see how they react. Most of the time they go very, very low. That gives you disadvantages because now you have to like launch up to actually do a next attack. You don't want that. You want just close enough so that you can avoid the attack. Then you go for the rip right away. So this technique is very beginner friendly. And then as you get better, you can always, change it. Like for example, at first you rely on the sticking to move his force around. But when you get better, you just mark the hand. So when he hook, you mark it like this, then you know, okay, I dodged my hand, then you're safe. And this technique is from my sifu, Adam Jan. He passed it down to me. I don't know where he get it from. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh, this look like the boxing techniques I always train. So I just like combine the two into this. So now when you under his armpit, you can attack his armpit, you can punch his rib, you can get his groin, you can also get the knee, and then from there the follow-up doesn't matter anymore. You can do anything you like. We already go over the high corners, so now it's time to go down and below. So when go down, there's two ways to attack. There's a straight line and then a round attack. We're gonna go over the round attack first. Mainly of the round attacks is with a knife or screwdrivers. So when you apply a yang gansao, you want to throw his weapon far away from you. Well, the same thing happens. If the guy is fairly strong, you cannot push him backward. Now it stick to you. And you don't want that because the knife is really, really close to your body. Now it's a very dangerous situation. So the gansao hand try to flower up this motion right here. It's like a snake, and then you just try to like point it upward. That's about it. But when you're doing that, that means you change the grip. So now instead of the knife is outside, now it's like very, very close to your throat, which is very dangerous. You don't want that. So when you climb up like this, you have to take this hand, draw it back and control his hand right away. And then from here, you just turn. When you turn like this, you sit down right away. You don't want to control him when his knife is near to your throat. At this situation, you want to actually break the hand right away. So the motion like this, break. That's about it. You don't want to play around with knife, honestly. Another way you can do it is you using a yin gansao. And then so when the guy stop you, you just playing with the force and then you step farther away from the knife in the direction that you can guarantee have the next shot. Usually you step in a diagonal ways toward the guy on the other side. If the knife comes this way, you go this way so that you stay further from the knife. So when you stay further from the knife, you just attack him. That gives you a lot of room to play with to actually keep attacking the guy. The next situation probably is when the guy using a straight attack. Well, in this case, most of the cases is the kick, like a push kick or the front kick. Nobody gonna actually, like go down and actually punch you like except the Charlie Foot guy. Those are their signature move. But rather than that, I don't see anyone want to punch your nut. Usually people prefer to like punch your head. So when that actually happens, well, again, you got a yang and a yin version of the Gansao. They relatively the same, not like the round attack because of the angles. So it just depends on what you like. If you're a straightforward guy, you want to close in and close the guy, shut the guy off right away, then go with the right side and use the yang gansao. On the other side, if you don't want to hurt the guys that bad, you can always do yin gansao to get behind him and control him as much as possible. Make sure when you can, you step right away behind him. So now you can grab his nut, you can punch his rib, you can get his knee, you can do the same thing with the elbow to the back of the knee, drop him down, control him, or you can also like tackle him and throw him away. There's many versions of that. Extra boy for Wing Chun practitioner, you can always use Jiggle exactly the same way as the Yin and Yang Gansao version. You can use the leg exactly like the Gansao to stop the kick and then go in and attack the other knee. When you kick that, it's like the building, you take out the column, now it's fall, and then it collapses on the twisted knee. Wow. ACL, LCL, menisci, all of those things, gone. I don't see how the guy can keep attack you unless he's like a zombie and then he's like to try to like crawl after you. In that case, run. The other yin version is when he kick, you can actually use it and then get his knee, or you can use it to like get him off balance and tackle him or control him. There's so many variety of that depending on your style, your personality, your background. Yeah, you just apply the thing that you learn. That's the crazy things about this. You need to understand the concept and then you just go for it, and then you can apply any techniques depending on your liking. But there's one thing to consider. Please, those techniques that I just show you, it could dramatically change somebody's life. So you have to determine you're the one who responsible for that. Because rather than you just defend yourself, do you think it's worth it? Do you think he deserved that? Because those techniques could actually turn him into a freaking tree. He can no longer working. He can no longer do anything. And for example, if he's the main income of the family, now you just actually kill that family. You don't want that. So make sure, consider these techniques are the last option you can think of to defend yourself before you try everything else to de-escalate it. Don't just like, oh, I train these cool techniques, I want to go around and test it. This is very basic and beginner entry level about those concepts. If you want to learn more about that, I suggest you look up EzWingchun of Master Phục Nguyen. EzWingchun means yin and yang in Chinese, or his inherit Master Steve Smith to have a better understanding. Or you can also look at all the Chinese Kung Fu style like Bakwa Xing Yi, Wing Chun. Many styles got that. If you want a more in-depth on these specific techniques and combos, let me know in the comment sections. I would love to make that for you. If you think this information is cool and informative, also give me a thumbs up, let me know in the comment sections and share it. Rather than that, enjoy your week and make sure you train hard. Turn this off and go training now. I get back to my training too. See ya.